Thank you very much, Brian, and the whole ReMO team for inviting us and giving us this space to talk about one of our favorite topics, community in academia and flamingos. And we plan today to explore the benefits of community among postdoctoral researchers, early career researchers, but special focus on postdocs, because we believe that connection and belonging are necessary to create innovation and to make good research. And I personally feel that researchers know this from how I know researchers. And increasingly also universities know this and are learning this and are doing targeted things to foster community and belonging. And we will now briefly introduce ourselves. I'm Johanna, I'm a researcher developer, and as was already said, I lead the first postdoc office that was established in Austria. Yasmin has written this for me, this part of my introduction. And I'm an anthropologist by background, and I've worked in diversity and gender equality promotion as well. And I did research in academia and outside academia in the fields of qualitative research, methodologies, violence preventative work, and masculinity studies. And my connection to this community topic is also that when I was a PhD employee and when I was a postdoc employee, I was all the time the sole early career researcher at my department. So I created my own communities, usually centered around qualitative research methods, and because I felt very lonely. And I still have this passion for facilitating community, and I now do it in my work. And my aim is basically to create a more fun and kind academia. So that's me, and I'm very happy that Yasmin agreed to do this with me today. Who are you, Yasmin?
Yeah, thank you, Johanna. And also thank you, Brian and the ReMO team for inviting us today. Yeah, so my name is Yasmin. I'm a systemic coach and trainer for researchers. So I'm helping them to navigate the challenges they're facing in their work. And long before that, so yeah, I was Marie Curie National Contact Point, but even before that, I was also a scientist myself. So I did a PhD in biomathematics and then worked as a postdoc and got to know some of the ups and downs of academic life. And I really know what a difference community activities can make. And yeah, and so I was quite thrilled when 2 years ago, Johanna asked me to support the peer mentoring program that she set up at the University of Graz. And so, yeah, I'm very happy that the two of us will share our experiences today with you and also talk about some of the underlying ideas about it. Yeah, so let's see what we'll expect you in the next half an hour of our talk.
Yes, so as you learned now, Yasmin thinks a lot about how researchers can be happy and successful, and I do as well. And I also think about what the university can do to facilitate this and what the university's responsibility is. And for our talk today, we will start by outlining the most common challenges faced by postdoctoral researchers from our experience, both of our experiences. We will give examples for community activities that have been beneficial, that have been in Graz, and we will describe their impact. We will give some practical tips for people seeking to facilitate community, be it as researcher developer or as researcher. And most of all, in the middle of all of this is the focus on the program that we run together, the PostDoc Peer Mentoring. And we will finish with inviting you for a discussion on how you do this. And now Yasmin will start.
Yeah, I want to start with introducing you to two postdocs, Ava and Paul. And so Ava is in her second postdoctoral position, and she really loves doing research and the academic freedom she has. But there are some things that are troubling her a lot. So she's co-supervising some bachelor students and master students, and she finds her role as co-supervisor often very challenging. So she feels a bit lost in this role. And also, she's already thinking about her next position, but she's very unsure how and where to apply for it. And her supervisor is giving her very concrete advice about it, but she's not sure if this is what she really wants. And she feels the pressure of making a good decision because it's already her third postdoc. So the colleagues in her team are quite nice, but she doesn't have the feeling that she can ask anyone for advice in this. So Paul is also a postdoc, and he finished his PhD only recently. So his new research group is quite small, and he works a lot from home, which is, has advantages, but he sometimes feels quite isolated. And so it's very different from his time as a PhD student when he was embedded in the program and in the activities. And it's especially a problem for him when he has to write papers, or what's even worse for him, funding applications. So it's really hard to motivate himself, and he's never happy with the stuff he really writes. So yeah, that's the situation of Eva and Paul. So Eva and Paul are, of course, not real people, but their concerns are really not uncommon. So they could be real people. So postdoctoral researchers are often faced with time-limited contracts. They have to show a high level of geographical mobility, and also have to pay the costs that are connected to this. They're facing high competition, the pressure to publish. So, I mean, those of you in the audience, you know about it, so I don't have to tell you. And I think in general, being a postdoc, one has many different hats and tasks in addition to doing your research. So that can be teaching, co-supervising, writing funding applications. So there's really a lot on everyone's plate as a postdoc. Yeah, and so in principle, Eva and Paul know that they're not the only ones experiencing these difficulties. But for them, it feels that way. But fortunately, things are going to change soon for Eva and Paul. But before we tell you how they're going to change, Johanna, it's a cliffhanger. Johanna is going to talk about what's going on in Graz.
Yes, so you will hear about Eva and Paul in 20 minutes time again. So good research and workplace well-being, we believe, needs opportunities for open exchange of ideas, for collaboration, for mutual support, and there need to be spaces where you can be there and hear your ideas resonate with someone and feel visible in a community in front of someone and be recognized with what you do. And this seems to be a bit what Eva and Paul are lacking. And I know from my work at the PostDoc Office that the researchers we have are very active in creating these spaces themselves. And in the last 3 years, and when I was a researcher myself, I have witnessed that postdocs are constantly forming communities, interdisciplinary communities, language spanning communities, communities that are cross backgrounds. And I find this really impressive considering the challenges that Yasmin just outlined. And I want to tell you what happens in Graz so that you can get an idea of the various communities researchers are maintaining. So we have in Graz networks that formed around creating change in academia. So people that were activated when the new short-term contract law was passed, or when the amendment to our university law was passed, like Netzwerk Unterbau Wissenschaft. We have people who organize around the topic of parenthood, for example, the Mothers in Science chapter Graz. We have a community of researchers that organize around being an alumnus or an alumna of a fellowship program, concretely the MCAA chapter Austria. We have people who organize around having an interest in open science and wanting to bring this further. The Graz Open Science Initiative. We have researchers who have a community around being a female or non-binary scholar, the Austrian Women in Mathematics chapter Graz, or the people who are active in this Austrian Women in Mathematics. we have people who just want buddies when writing papers, and they organize around programs that we offer at the PostDoc office. So the first part was basically me. I have nothing to do with that. I just witness and support if something needs something from me. But we also run different programs where people can meet, and then they will form a community afterwards. So when they met each other at the postdoc writing retreat, for example, or at the postdoc office fiasco fest, where people share misfortunes in their career with each other, that's very community building. And then there will be secret pizza groups, for example. And we also run, or we also support this writing group. It's an initiative by 2 postdocs themselves who set up basically the concept, and then we provide the mailing list. We also have a semesterly partners of postdocs meet up, so where postdocs come with their family members, and that was also an initiative by a partner of one of our researchers, and we offer more formal pizza nights and social lunch once per semester. And so it goes from the unstructured to the medium structured and to more structured, and we will now talk about this more structured format, and that's the postdoc peer mentoring team. Yes, what are you? Oh,
yes.
Yeah,
that's the photos of the pizza.
Yes, so this very structured peer mentoring is here on the left. That was the final hybrid workshop of the second round of the peer mentoring program. And in the middle here, you can see the Friday writing group, and to the right is the postdoc pizza. And now for the peer mentoring, a brief intro before I give over on to Yasmin. Why was this established, or how was this established? So before the postdoc office started, we did a needs analysis where we spoke to a third of the postdoctoral researchers in Graz. And one result was that the postdocs who spoke to us were very interested in being involved in a network of peers. So that came up in every of the focus groups. And so the program that we came up with, we of course have been inspired by best practices in other countries, is based on the idea that postdocs support each other and share their experiences. And we organize a yearly call for it, all the applications, meetings, and support, which are external trainers and a kickoff meeting and so on. And Yasmin will explain that later, but then the sessions between the peers are largely organized and designed also by the team members themselves. And in the first year, it was trial and error. And in the second year, we thought it's better to have a professional on board. So we brought Yasmin on board as a co-facilitator. And now the program is in its third round, the second round with Yasmin. And Yasmin will explain it a little bit now.
Yeah. So what happens in the peer mentoring program? So the peers talk about critical cases in their everyday work life. They ask each other questions that help to change perspective and to reflect critically. They provide to each other access to knowledge and possibly new networks. And they can also map out a path together, how to reach decisions or to solve a challenge. So it's a mixture what I want to present, what we do in Graz, and a bit also more general how these peer mentoring groups can be organized. And because of course there's a wide range of possibilities, and so we are really curious to hear how from the audience experiences how you are doing it. And so there's really many possibilities. So what I think is important in general, actually for every process people are doing together, is to have clarity and a joint understanding about the goals of such a peer mentoring group, of the process, and also the roles. And then, of course, everything is okay, but there has to be a joint understanding about it. And also, so I'm a big fan of structure, and I know Johanna is also very structured. So, and I think also for this kind of meeting, structure is really helpful. So from my experience, it's better to start in a more structured way, and then eventually you can still adapt how you do it to your own needs. But I think it's easier to start with more structure and then back a bit away than the other way around. Okay, so what happens in Graz? There's a first meeting. Johanna already mentioned there's a kickoff where people get to know each other, and what's really important, they decide on joint values for the cooperation, like commitment, confidentiality, and so on. And about these values, it's also a matter of discussion what this really means in concrete terms for everyone, because also confidentiality can mean, okay, nothing leaves the room at all that's being talked about, or it can mean, okay, no personal information and so on. So it's really discussed what these values actually mean, and made sure that it means the same for everyone. Yeah, and then in the first meeting, you can discuss practicalities, how you want to work together. So really very practical things like the interval between meetings, shared documents, and so on. And also a reflection on what you bring into the group and what you want to gain from it. Yeah, I think that's also very important to think about. And all these things that are decided upon in the first meeting can and also should be revisited later, because things can change and you get to know each other better and so on. But so it's a good starting point in the first meeting. And then, yeah, the question is, how can you structure your meetings when you work together? And in Graz, we have a workshop, so where we discuss these things. So what would be a very simple structure? So the most simple structure actually I can think of is to start with a warm-up to get into working mood, because what will happen is that people come into the peer mentoring right from their work and they have their mind somewhere else. And so you want really to help the people to focus on the group. So it can be one or two common questions for everyone, maybe highs and lows of the week, or any other short warm-up activity. Yeah, then there's the main part, the discussion, and there's also many possibilities. It can be a very free discussion. It can be a sharing of best practices, for instance, funding applications. It can be role play. Yeah, so there's a whole field of things you can do. And then, like to close the meeting, you can at least discuss next steps, maybe also takeaways from the discussions, and then ideas for next time, and also when the next meeting will be, and so on. And I think it's also very helpful if one or two persons are responsible for each session, meeting, maybe sending out invitations, or especially watching over the time. Because when you discuss lively, the time is easily forgotten. Okay, and then I want to talk about a method that's much more structured than this very, very easy format. It's called collegial consultation. It's a structured process for professional reflection and problem solving. And so it's based on specific cases. So one person in the group would like to receive new perspectives and suggestions for solutions from the others for one specific case, which could be, for instance, taking a difficult decision or having troubles with someone you're supervising and so on. And so this collegial consultation is already been used for many decades. It was originally from the education sector, and there's many references in literature. So here's a book I think where it's described very clearly. And so we have different roles in this. So first of all, there's the case owner. So that's the person who raises the problem or case. Then there's a facilitator person, and the facilitator is not necessarily, or also in practice here, not a person from outside of the group, but it's someone from the group. And also these roles will always change in every session. And the facilitator moderates the process and really also watches over the time so that the talking parts are well distributed. And also watches that the roles are adhered to. And the rest of the group are counselors or invited to be counselors. And they develop ideas, thoughts, and questions that help the case owner. Okay, and you see with this ideal group size starts with five persons. Okay, and an important attitude here is that the case owner is responsible for implementing a solution or not. So they can take up suggestions, but they don't have to do so. It's an offer. And for the process, and I find this is really very intriguing about the process, is an interplay between listening and discussing. So we have a phase where the case owner explains their problem, and the consultants, they're only listening, and they can also in between ask, so you can check if they've understood everything, but basically it's one person talking and the others are listening. And then these roles are changed, and the consultants are talking among themselves about this case. So they can brainstorm, they can try to develop solutions or just share experiences. And the case owner is just listening and extracting helpful thoughts and ideas and perspectives. They can use or not in their particular case. So and I think these roles and really this changing process, it's something you have to get used to, and can be a bit difficult in the beginning. So we really practiced this with the researchers before, but then it's very, I find it always very, just great what comes out of this kind of process. So that was a bit a glimpse of what can happen, or what happens actually in Graz in these groups. And now let's look what it actually changes for the people.
I have a comment in the. I have put a comment in the chat where you can find the whole yearly schedule, because the peer mentoring is more than the peer-to-peer sessions, and just in case you want to look what else is on offer. And thank you, Yasmin. This was also very interesting for me, and I also really enjoy this hearing about this collegial consultation process. So we have now that you have a good idea of the concept and the practicalities of this type of structured community, I want to talk about the impact of peer networking activities, also still on the example of the peer mentoring, which we have been evaluating now for 2 years. And I will start with the words of the postdocs themselves. They say people who will be able to understand my situation best are the people who are currently in a similar situation. So conversations that came up without a schedule were of benefit for a participant. I learned a lot from them. Sometimes one doesn't even know what questions to ask, and just bumping into the information helps. And another quote is generally about our events. They make me feel part of Uni Graz, which is especially valuable for non-Austrian academics like me, and provide glimpses of the work going on at different institutes and units of Uni Graz and beyond. And again, about the peer mentoring program, the peer mentoring is a great place to exchange ideas, questions, dilemmas, fears, gossips. I started to cherish and acknowledge my academic career even more, says a participant of the second round. And so to sum up what we know about the benefits, you can see it here a little bit in red, but here's an overall slide. So the information that is shared in these groups is appropriate and relevant for the participants because it comes from their peers. The participants or group members develop self-confidence by seeing how others handle challenges, and they see the diversity of ways you can be a postdoc or you can live a researcher life. And when they expand their networks beyond their own work area, they feel less competition, they feel more inspiration from different disciplines. There are more collaboration opportunities. We know this very concretely. Some people are working together, for example, even though they didn't know each other before. And also institutional knowledge is shared. So what people know about Uni Graz and who to talk to, for example, and it's shared freely. So overall, this program or this community building across the university, it can make you feel like you belong at your workplace more. And by sharing and discussing your plans with your peers, this is what Yasmin asked me also to put in, is that you feel accountable. It motivates you when you share your plans with your peers to also stick to them or to implement the plans. And I'm sure all of the people listening can also mention numerous benefits from personal experience, and we would like to hear them a little bit later. And now, because this is all very positive, we also want to discuss why it's hard for researchers to access community and how it might fail and how it can be hard to make community building a priority in your everyday life. So this touches on what Yasmin said before about challenges. Postdocs might change employers frequently, they might move internationally, they handle a high workload, they have family and friendship commitments in other parts of the world. They are also trained subconsciously or consciously to be careful about being too transparent in a professional context because of competition. Then organizing can be challenging when people drop out of contact due to health issues or contract changes. If there are some strong networkers or idea generators and they quit because they get a new job or they have work overload, then that might be a problem for the community as a whole. Communities can also sometimes be negatively impacted when different life experiences and personalities from this very diverse group of people result in mismatched expectations that aren't like you cannot resolve. Friendships might form and split off from the group. People somehow don't get the information about the group because there is generally so much stuff going on. That's not about the peer mentoring, that's about community in general, all of that. And group settings also sometimes maybe are not welcoming to everyone and aren't exclusive enough. So that is what many groups of the ones I mentioned before we have in Graz or in general can struggle with. And so I also want to offer some tips for researchers who organize groups and maintain networks based on what we observe here or what I've observed over the time working with postdocs and what we learned that might work to combat all the risks. So the first is, I'll just read them out. All of the 5: find allies among permanent staff, plan for sustainability, give yourself sustenance, make it work for your CV, and keep it simple. And now about the permanent staff as allies. People who have a permanent contract can be a group memory, they can induct newcomers, they can spread the word even after you personally have left. They might know networks that already exist from which you could learn. They might have more insights into the university and they can speak on your behalf in certain working groups, for example. They might be insightful also into how you voice your needs as a group and how you can be heard by those who might support you. And the second, plan for sustainability. Be conscious that there needs to be someone to take over when you need to move, or when you have to prioritize care for your family, or when you have to take a longer leave or have a busy season. Think about the communication infrastructure and who stores the access information. What is the general meeting place and who has the key? Where is the permanent information about the existence of your group stored? Is there a website where you can always find it? Are there boards where you can hang it? How do you ensure that ever new people find the group and can start co-organizing? So that's about the sustainability and about the sustenance. Sustenance is very important for the researchers in Graz. Be it sustenance can be childcare, sustenance can be food, sustenance can be coaching. So what does your group need to be able to regularly meet and also maybe achieve the goals? If you have goals, where can you get that sustenance? Can it be paid by the university? Can it be paid by department funds? Is there a friendly research support person who can offer you assistance with getting your sustenance? Is there free coaching maybe to professionalize your leadership role in this group? And that brings us to make it work for your CV. So organizing a group is a leadership skill and it demonstrates teamwork skills. So it shows you are able to think beyond your field of research. That's often asked in third-party funding proposals nowadays, what with the narrative CVs. It demonstrates a commitment to the academic community as a whole. It demonstrates possibly an international outlook or a love for diversity or for being with different people. You could name your group to demonstrate this. You can give yourself a formal role and title, and you can first and foremost be proud of your work and speak well of yourself and your co-organizers for doing it. And then keep it simple. Put thought into what is the most time-saving way of finding dates, meeting places, agendas, writing and sharing notes. Get help with room bookings from, for example, graduate centers, postdoc offices, staff development units, etc. Do things in batches, so like setting dates and locations for a semester in advance, allocate roles and tasks and stick to them. And most importantly, have fun. And that was my advice for the researchers if they need advice. And I also have some practices that would be maybe more interesting to researcher developers that I think are why our offers tend to work well. So we have spatial proximity to the researchers. So we are visible and accessible and very responsive to new ideas. And we have a quick path to implementing any wishes, and we strive for lean administration. We encourage the participation of the researchers in implementing the new ideas, but we also recognize that they have a lot they don't have a lot of time. So we try to make everything very simple. We're not exclusive. We usually do first come, first serve. We try to let everyone participate regardless of if they currently have a contract or not, or what kind of contract they have when we can. And we model academic kindness rather than competition in our language and our events. And free food is always available because it's an expression of appreciation. And also my personal motto, postdocs have experience, knowledge and skills so that they can get also, they are not primarily people in need of support, but they can get things done without us and then can inform us about it so we can spread the word about them. And now I give over to Yasmin for so that you can all hear what happened to Ava and Paul.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So the what they did is they initiated a peer mentoring group at their home university. So they found other postdocs from various thematic fields. Yeah, and now they have meetings on a regular basis. And actually, things turned out really well for the two of them. So Ava brought her topic about deciding about her next career step in one of the collegial consultation sessions. And there she got the idea to organize a shorter research stay first to help her decide and find out if she actually liked the environment. Also regarding the supervision, it really helped her because hearing from other people's viewpoint, she now knows that she's not the only one who finds supervision challenging. And also got valuable ideas from discussing peers challenging in supervision. Paul can really profit from the knowledge within the group regarding funding applications. He still doesn't love writing papers and applications, but the accountability towards his peers helps him really to get things done. So he knows that the group will ask him next time if he really submitted as planned, and that really gives him a lot of motivation. So, so much about Eva and Paul. And now we're really interested to discuss all these topics with you. So first, there's a bit of further reading if you want to go into details. And yeah, so we would like to discuss with you how do you practice this kind of collaborations, and then very practically, how do you set it up? And what are your experiences regarding the time that all these things need? And what does it give to your work, really? So yeah, we are really curious about the discussions, and I will stop my sharing my screen here.
Thank you,